Hey, what's up? This is Brad with Be Real. Hey, I want to talk to you about something that's been happening in my life. I just want to, like I said, this whole podcast is to do whatever I can to help anybody wherever they're at, and let me tell you something funny. In my previous life, I would do almost 50 different meetings a year. And so I had this person that worked for me, and they worked with me for me, whatever. And they worked with me for, several years. And he came up to me, hit me up. He goes, hey, I noticed something. I love your meetings. He goes, I noticed something. He said, I noticed you never do the same meeting over again. Like year after year, you've never repeated the same meeting. He goes, how do you do that? And I told him, I said, here's the way I come up, and this is the way I come up with these podcasts too. I kind of just do an inventory of my life. This is what I told him. I kind of just do an inventory of my life, and I kind of see what's going on in my life. I kind of see, what are things I might need help with, or what are things that I'm working on, or when I'm talking to different people, what are they working on? And I kind of come up with these ideas, but mostly it's like, what do I need to work on in my life? What am I having issues in my life? And then I kind of start to formulate that. And then, I take the issues I have in my life and I create meetings and I create podcasts. And you know what this guy goes? He goes, man, you got a lot of issues. And I said, yeah, I dang sure got a lot of issues. So I'll tell you where this came from. I was in the kitchen talking to my niece, Skylar, and we were talking about doing job interviews. And so since my transition in June of 2024, I didn't interview or do interviews for almost 30 years, right? So now I'm in this interview world, and I started describing my experiences that were happening in this interviewing world. And all of a sudden, these young people that were in my house started gathering to me to listen to what I was saying, because they're all experiencing the same things when they're out interviewing. And so the first thing I want to tell you is when I started this journey, I would go into these, companies, and they would go, okay, tell us a little bit about you. I'm like, well, let me tell you something, man. I love people, and I just love helping people, and I want to help people, and I want to take the things, and I want to go out and I want to help people. Bro, let me tell you something, man. I'm looking at these people. I say, here's what I say my whole life. I've been in sales for my whole life, is I read people for a living, right? And I noticed when I first went into these interviews, when I started that kumbaya, I just want to help people, all that stuff, snap, man. Their eyes glassed over. I lost them. And so I want to encourage you, and I want to share with you my experiences and the experiences that happened that we talked about in my kitchen. I want to share these with you. And some of these things, when I say interviews, are communication things that I always try to help people. Yeah, I want to try to help you in a business realm, but some of these things will help you communicate in your personal life. Some of these things, if you're a parent, will help you communicate with your children. So I'll go back to it. So what I learned very quickly was when people go, tell me what's up, tell me about yourself. You know what I went from that kumbaya crap to? I kind of lean forward and I go, I increase sales. I grow businesses, I scale businesses out, and I strengthen relationships. And then I pause, and if I got their attention, then I go into, here's how I do it. I just said I increase sales, grow businesses, and strengthen relationships. But I do it backwards. I take the relationships, I strengthen the relationships, and that's the internal relationships and the external relationships and the internal relationships with the external relationships, and I strengthen all that, which ends up in, philosophically, physically, spiritually, your business increases, sales increase, and your business grows. And they're like, oh, okay, all right, I got you now. Because I'm telling you, I'll come across as positive. No, you should do research before you go in to talk to people or do interviews about people so you can relate to where they're coming from. But I don't care what their mission statement says. that we're in this deal to harbor a positive environment for our internal and our external customers, and we're happiness. Yeah, that's their mission statement. But let me tell you why they're in business. They're in business to generate revenue, increase sales, and grow business. That's what they're there for. And so you need to address that need first and get their attention, and then you can drop back to whatever it is you want to talk about that's regarding their mission statement. The thing I noticed too is you need to have, it's called an elevator pitch. You need to have that elevator pitch, and that needs to be the first thing that comes out of your mouth when you're sitting there. Let me tell you something. Here's what an interview is. You're promoting yourself, and they're not going to promote you for you. You have got to promote yourself. You've got to talk about yourself. Don't have a problem with being uncomfortable with talking about yourself. If you don't know how to promote yourself and sell yourself, how is anybody else ever going to sell you or promote you? Or you see what I'm saying? Another thing, let me share a little trick with you. You need to get, and I'm going to share with you guys 10 interview questions. If you can message me, you can email me, whatever. I'll send you the 10 questions. But you need to practice, in my opinion, in my life, let's go to that. In my life, the most important thing in my life is God, my family, and money, generating money and providing for my family. So this is pretty important. So you should take the time to practice before you go to a job interview. Let me tell you the easiest way to do it. Set your phone up and hit record and ask yourself questions and then answer your questions. Do you have good eye contact? Are you being direct? Do you have concise answers? Would you hire you? Then you need to go in there also, and you need to turn the volume off. After you got this big recording done, you need to turn the volume off and make sure that your facial expression and your body language are lining up with the message you're trying to deliver to that person. You're like, oh, Brad, man, I'm not comfortable with. Well, you need to get comfortable. I've had a lot of great salespeople that I've dealt with in my life. As soon as you turn that camera on, you have this salesperson that's so outgoing and all that stuff, and they're amazing and dynamic and all that. And you're like, hey, I need to film you so that I can use your film to help train other people. You got this outgoing, and then you turn the camera on and they go, hello, how are you doing today? I'm like, dude, what just happened, man? I went from this guy I wanted to interview to now I got a mortician. What I need. So anyway, if you can get great on camera, I promise you will be better in front of a customer. If you can get great on camera, I promise you that when you're communicating to your family or your kids, you will be a better communicator. So that's something you need to do. Get with me. I'll show you the things. I'll send you the 10 questions that are common questions. When they ask you a question and you feel like, I have notes here because I have a lot of information I want to give you. If they're starting to put you, first of all, be direct. And when you give answers, go, yeah, I own my own business for a while and we did good. Well, what do you mean you did good? I doubled the revenue in a year. Be straight up with them. Numbers get their attention. Or, yeah, I did very well with my previous company. You did well. Well, how did you do well? Well, when I started with them, they were doing X amount of dollars, and within a year, I increased their business 20%. Those are the kind of things that get people's attention when you're sitting in an interview, or if it doesn't always have to be sales. That's just where I'm. Or if you're in an HR situation, or if you're whatever it is, retention's a very big thing right now. That's another thing you can talk about. Well, when I went to work for this company, they were losing over 70% of the people that they had on their employment every year. They were losing 70% of them. By the end of 1 year, they were only losing 50%. By the end of the next year, we were retaining over 70% of our employees. Those are the kind of things that get people's attention, that stick with people when you walk out of the room and the interview's over. There are common questions that are asked. That are the 10 questions that people are going to ask of you, that no matter what your job is, there's going to be common questions. You can Google them. You don't have to get with me. You can Google what's the 10 most common questions that people are going to ask you when you go into an interview. So I'm going to read some of them to you, and I'll give you the answer that is suggested, and I'm going to give you the answer. And I share this with you now. I'm on the other side of this deal where I'm doing the interviews, but I had to put myself back in that situation where I was interviewing other people, and what were the answers that I wanted to hear and what were the answers that got my attention. So I'm not only sharing this from you from a person that's doing interviews, I'm sharing this from a position of somebody that's done hundreds and hundreds of interviews. So question number 1, what motivates you in a sales role? Look, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. If somebody asks you what motivates you in the sales world, here's what you need to say. I love closing deals. I love making money. I love making my company money. I love making money. That's what motivates me in sales. Okay? That's what the number one answer should come out of your mouth. And you need to go into that deal of whatever else you love about sales. I love getting to know people. I love meeting new people. I love the sales force. I love working and collaborating with with other people within the selling organization. Whatever it is that you like about sales. I'm gonna go back to the other deal. If no matter what the question they ask you, what do you like or what entices you about being an accountant? Well, I like producing a tremendous amount of work. I love counting, I love numbers, and I love producing a tremendous amount of work, and I'm great at it. That needs to be your first thing. Then you need to go, I love collaborating with other people. Whatever it is else that entices you about that profession. But you need to tell them what they want to hear. If they go, what do you really like about sales? Oh, I just like meeting people, and no, that's not what they want to hear. They want to hear that you like closing deals, and another big one is, I like closing deals and taking such great care of customers that they become repeat customers. How do you handle objections? How do you handle objections? How do you handle a negative situation? Or how do you handle something that's going down the road and somebody goes, whoa, wait, I don't understand. I need to ask you a question. Listen to the question or listen to the objection, and the first thing out of your mouth, you need to go, thank you. Thank you for asking me that question. That just means that you're serious about wanting to understand that. And that's the whole reason I'm here. Is the other reason that you want them to ask you questions, or you want to have an objection, is 80 to 85% of all sales are not closed until you've overcome the fourth major objection. So the first thing you should say about if somebody asks you, how do you handle objections? Oh, man, I love objections. I love when customers have objections, because that way, in their mind, when they have an objection, that they're beginning to do the buying process in their heads. The standard canned response for what do you think about objections? I love an opportunity to understand the client's perspective. I listen actively. The greatest salespeople are the greatest people, I call them greeters, are the greatest at first impressions. That's number one. The greatest closers are the greatest listeners. The greatest closers are the greatest listeners. You want to know why? Because throughout the whole selling process, they're listening to everything the customer says, and then when it gets to the end and they have an objection, they replay all of those things that the customer said back to them to sell them on why they need this. You said you needed a third row seat. You said you wanted a dark interior. You said you needed it right away. You said, whatever it is, because first you're going to find out what the primary need is when you're doing a need assessment. Then once you find out that primary need, you're going to help them to nudge them away. Let me tell you something. People, I was telling earlier in an earlier podcast, the number one reason why people have a tendency of failing is they procrastinate. When I was in the other industry, I was in the furniture industry, there was a statistic that came out that said, we were delivering millions and millions of dollars of furniture a month. And the statistic came out, the average customer should have brought that stuff 3 years ago. So like a mattress. So they're laying on this mattress. They've laid on this mattress 3 years too long. So people have a tendency of procrastinating. So you're just helping. Sales is actually helping them to achieve what they've actually left their house to achieve. The other question, can you describe the sales process? Can you describe your sales process? Yes, I can tell you what my sales process is. This is what you should say. It all leads to the close. Everything needs to lead to the close. That's where this ultimately goes. It's not a sale unless there's a close. But do you mind if I share with you? Here's what my beliefs are. I believe that the greet is extremely important in establishing a relationship. Listening and qualifying is extremely important to it. You're going to have objections. I've got to overcome 4 or 5 objections, and then I close them. That should be the answer to your selling process. But you need to say, I love the sale. I love the hunt. I love closing deals, because that's ultimately what they're hiring you for. How you prioritize. These are the top 10 questions people ask you. How do you prioritize and manage your time effectively? Let me give you the standard response. I use a combination of planning priority tools such as to-do lists, tasks, calendars, block, regular process. That's how I manage my time. Great answer. Can I tell you what else? When somebody says, how do I manage my time? Let me tell you what I do. I do the things I am least excited about every day first. I get those out of my way first. I prioritize those first. I get them out of my way first, because then I get a sense of gratitude and accomplishment, and then I move on to the next one. Describe a successful sale you made. Okay, here's my answer. A successful sale that I made is to the level that they refer somebody else to me. If you get somebody that's finally in front of you in a true selling opportunity, that's a done deal. I'm going to close that deal. But what I learned early on is if that's a person that is in this position, that they're already to this spot in this process of selling. Let me just put it to you in another way. In my prior life, I sold furniture. If I had somebody in front of me that was in the process of buying a $2,500 sofa, in my head I go, okay, this person is in this store in a physical box and brick and mortar. If he's here, he's probably got 5 or 6 friends that are also able to buy a $2,500 sofa. So I'm going to take care of this person to a level that they're going to refer their friends. The greatest compliment anybody can ever give you is to refer your friend. Now let me tell you what this says. When it says describe a successful sale. One of my most successful sales involved a client who initially hesitated at a budget restraint, but actively listened to their needs, demonstrated how I could solve a solution and how I could solve all their issues. I was able to adjust my offer to have a win-win scenario. So there, you got 2 answers. You got my answer, and you got the textbook answer. Now, the other question, how do you approach team collaboration? My answer, no great successful person has done it by themselves. I don't care how great I get at whatever profession you're going to do that interview. I don't care how great I am. I'm not going to be able to be as successful as you need me to be unless I collaborate with other people. And I'm going to tell you that's the absolute truth. People that collaborate with other people and network with other people are far more successful than the people are not. They actually they had a study that followed this study. I won't go into this study, but they followed the study of successful people who went to Harvard University, and they found out that the successful people that succeeded and were happy at Harvard University were actually the people that worked and collaborated with other people in their class. How do you measure success in sales or management? I'm going to give you my answer. The way I gauge my success as a manager is the only way that I'm going to ever be perceived as successful is making other people successful and helping other people to succeed. When I help other people to succeed, then it's spiritually, philosophically, and physically impossible for me not to be deemed successful. Let me read you their answer. I measure success by how well those around me succeed, measured through qualified metrics, how they hit their metrics. Here's another great one, and I'll wrap this thing up. Why do you want to work for this company? there again, there's an answer that you first think that you should tell them based off their mission statement and all that stuff. Here's what you should say. Why do you want to go to work for this company? Because I believe that I am the best that you could possibly hire for this company. I believe that I am the greatest asset that you're going to talk to that's going to help you to drive your company in the direction that it wants to go. I'm coachable. I learn very quickly. I'm motivated. I do not procrastinate. I'm a go-getter. I have a growth mindset, and that's why I feel like I would be great. Then if you have their attention, you can plug in some of the other things that might be on their mission statements or whatever that you feel like they want to hear. But I'm telling you, what the people want to hear, really want to hear, is what is it that you're going to do for them, and how are you going to accomplish that? Let's go back to selling. Interview is a sale, right? And people decide whether they're going to buy in the first 5 to 10 seconds, right? So don't forget that when you walk in the room. You need to have the energy immediately of the person that they need to hire. Great eye contact, great posture, great energy, a huge smile. I had a boss one time a long time ago. Was like, I don't know if I like that person. He just doesn't smile. And when I was younger, I was like, that makes no sense to me. Why are we judging a person by, this is when I was younger, why are we judging a person by whether they smile or something? But you know what? The longer I was in management, I realized my more successful teammates, salespeople, employees, my most successful one walked around smiling all day long. So the question comes, do they smile a lot and they're successful, or did they become successful because they're smile? In my opinion, they became successful because they were smile and they were likable to be around. So the first thing when you go into the job interview, great positive energy, assertive, eye contact, great body language, great to meet you. I'm glad I'm here. Thank you for this opportunity. Then once you get into that, let them ask you the question, whatever the question asks you, be direct. Think of it like an elevator pitch. One last thing I want to share with you about this. They're going to ask you, do you have any questions? Can I tell you something I learned in my process? When they say, well, what do you want to make as far as compensation? Well, we can get further down the road at that. I don't really want to throw a number out at you. Here's what I want my compensation to be. I want it to be fair. I want it to be obtainable, and I want there to be no limits to what I can make with you guys. If I work harder than everybody else, I want to be able to make more than other people in my position. That's all I want to have. And when they say, is there any other questions? Don't say, yeah, do I have the job? You ain't going to get the job if you say that. I say, no, I don't have any further questions. If I have questions, I'll get back to you. Do you have any further questions for me? Because it's a service industry. You're trying to get the position from this person. So when you ask, you want to have this servitude mindset. Hey, guys, I'll tell you this. If you're I've been doing this for a while, and all the Indeed apps and all those things that you go through to get to the point. Just like I told you earlier, if I have somebody in front of me that I got into this position where they're in this process where you're in front of somebody in an interview deal, you're further down the road than thousands and thousands of applicants. So when you're that close, realize in your head they don't interview that many people. So when you get to that point, understand that you want to walk out of there with the mindset that you're going to achieve is you're going to get the job. Go have a great day, guys, and be real.